Purdue becoming the second 1 seed in NCAA tournament history to lose to a 16 seed. And I would argue this is the biggest upset in first round history of the NCAA tournament. Why is that? Fairleigh Dickinson, for people who do not know, did not win their conference tournament. Merrimack won the NEC conference tournament, and Merrimack is not eligible to play in the NCAA tournament due to archaic rules regarding a 4-year transition period where teams cannot make the NCAA tournament for the first 4 years that they are in Division I. That left the door open for Fairleigh Dickinson, who we will now refer to as FDU moving forward, to make the tournament at 18 and 15. They blow the doors off of Texas Southern. Tobin Anderson, the coach of Fairleigh Dickinson, in the locker room after the game, tells his team, you know what? Cam told me at breakfast today, Cam Morrell, their assistant coach, the more I watch Purdue, the more I think we can beat them. And they went in and they beat Purdue 63-58. An unbelievable performance by FDU. I cannot believe that we got to see a 1 versus 16 upset this year. What were your overriding thoughts watching that game?
Oh man. The worst game possible for your starting backcourt to have their worst games of the season. Like that was, I think what's so tough in this is, I mean, part of it too, I think I sometimes get caught too much up in the long view. So for tournament time, I feel like I'm always thinking more like bigger picture. It's just tough. Like Braden Smith has been incredible this year for Purdue. And I mean, he's had maybe the worst performance out of anybody in the tournament so far. Like being completely blunt, like that was really rough. Foster Lawyer really struggled to get going. Just anything traction wise. I do just want to say too, and it's not just me trying to hedge my bets, but like anybody pointing out that this was on Zach Edey just needs to rethink what they're looking at, man. Because I think they lost that game in spite of everything Zach Edey did. I thought he was pretty solid defensively, offensively. I mean, he was everywhere on the glass. They just could not get the ball in whatsoever. Like he was getting triple teamed. It felt like there was not a single 4 that Purdue had that could get guarded. I was honestly almost surprised that they didn't try and just go with 4 smalls out on the court, because like Mason Gillis and Caleb First were just getting completely laid off of. That was exactly like was mentioned. I mean, I think that was as perfect a game plan execution as we've seen in the tournament, other than what Princeton did to Arizona. But that was like, yeah, man, that was really about as rough a game as could happen for Purdue.
Yeah, Zach Edey ends up going for 21 and 15 in this game, 7-11 from the field, 7 of 10 from the free throw line. And look, I'm doing a big thing on this breakdown and on this upset for The Athletic, I think for tomorrow, as long as I get it done here. And what I keep coming back to is not Zach Edey. I think Zach Edey was actually pretty okay defensively in this game. Like if you go and you watch, we're going to talk about the Arizona game in a little bit. I thought Ajolas Tubelis was like completely out of his depth in that game.
Yeah.
Zach Edey was not. Like Zach Edey handled switches. He handled ISOs pretty well in this game. Like I'm going to actually break down tape and like show you in this thing I'm writing for The Athletic tomorrow, but he was pretty okay. Like early on, FDU's strategy was actually to put him as the ball handler defender in ball screen actions. And he just like got through screens and it was fine. And he stayed in front of his man and contested. It was really impressive. It was genuinely, I think that Zach Edey had some moments that were disappointing, like any big will have when you run through the gamut of ball screen opportunities, possession after possession after possession. You're not going to go, 100% in those things, but it wasn't his fault. The guards had no recovery ability. The guards for FDU blew by them with real speed. For people who don't know, Grant Singleton, Dimitri Roberts, these are two very small, very fast players that are capable of really getting separation in those ball screen scenarios. And FDU plays 5-out basketball, and typically this is the kind of team that would give Purdue problems, would give Zach Edey problems, but it was mostly fine. I mean, you can point to the fact that the guy that Zach Edey spent most of the night guarding, Sean Moore, he ended up with 19. He led the team in scoring, but like Sean Moore went 3 of 10 from 3. He went, 19 points on 18 shooting attempts with a turnover and no assists. If you're Purdue and the guy that Zach Edey is guarding one-on-one, when FDU is repeatedly and time after time attacking him to try and get that advantage because they think they have that advantage defensively. If I told you that that guy went for essentially 1 point per possession, Purdue would take that, I think. Like undeniably, let alone like forget like passes out that Edey stifles, right? I think Purdue takes 1 point per possession, assuming that Purdue can outscore 1 point per possession on the other end, because they've only had, I think, 3 or 4 games this year where they haven't scored more than 1 point per possession. And oh, by the way, FDU, who we'll talk about defensively in a second, they are like one of the 10 worst defenses statistically in all of college basketball. The strategy for Purdue and for Zach Edey was fine. This one is not on Zach Edey. I just want to be crystal clear with everybody. Zach Edey was fine in that game. The drop coverage scheme was not bad in that game. It was the guards just getting their ass kicked that was the problem.
Yeah, no, exactly. And also worth noting too, I think it was said on broadcast, like statistically the smallest starting lineup in the country was Fairleigh Dickinson. I think they said average player was 6'3", and it felt it too. Like they really pushed the pace. But I think what was most egregious was the rebounding. Like they killed Purdue on the glass, especially late. Like they were flying everywhere for everything. Purdue didn't box out at all. It was like stunning to watch. I mean, not the exact same as the St. Peter's game last year against Purdue, but a lot of shades of the same stuff.
So a little bit. So someone mentioned that in one of the group texts that I'm in, and I disagree with it a little bit. St. Peter's, what they did particularly was they attacked Oscar Tshiebwe in ball screens repeatedly, and Oscar failed in pick and roll.
Oh, no. I meant with when St. Peter's played Purdue last year.
Oh, when St. Peter's played Purdue. Yeah, I agree with that. That's a really good point. Yeah, sorry. Again, it's very tired. It's very,
no, dude, trust me.
We've been up forever at this point. Mark's been up for 16 hours. I've been up for 12 hours watching basketball and working consecutively. We're both delirious at this point.
Yeah.
But they really crowded Edey on the block. I felt like they did a great job of forcing him into difficult situations. He ended up with 2 turnovers, but it felt like more, didn't it? Like it felt like he turned the ball over, 5 or 6 times where they might have gotten somebody else for a turnover. Or, maybe, didn't have control of the ball completely. So they charged the turnover to somebody else because they were crowding him as much as they were. Yeah. And look, credit to where it's due with FDU. Tobin Anderson and this coaching staff did a phenomenal job of figuring out how to guard Purdue. They crowded the interior and then they rotated on a string to stop 3-pointers, or at least contest 3-pointers. Undeniably, when you are a 16 going up against a 1, you need some luck. You do, right? Like you absolutely need to get some luck. I think they got some luck. Purdue missed a lot of open threes, right? Yeah, Purdue missed a lot of open threes. This is amazing.
I thought you froze for a second. God damn.
No. So Purdue missed a lot of open threes. That happens in games like this. And you have to be able to, on some level, work through that, really. And it felt like, did it feel like to you that Purdue kind of got tight? That's what it felt like to me in the second half. They kind of got tight, right?
Yeah. No, I think without question, it felt like they were tight. like even with Zach, like I actually I never really felt like Zach got tight, but I think it was more so again the guards and forwards were just like Foster, not Foster, geez. Fletcher Lawyer has been like dynamite the entire year for them in what he's done, and this is like the most congested he felt tonight in everything he was doing. Like even that 3 late, I know like the broadcast was hammering saying like, oh, you don't need the quick 3, you don't need the quick 3, but also like he kind of forced himself into it with where he was at. Like, I mean, I've seen him be comfortable taking pretty well contested stuff. It just was like there was a lot of vexing process that went on from players that was like, I didn't even think it was necessarily anything that the defense did. It was just like moment got to him.
I mean, look, these are teenagers, right?
Like, yeah, exactly. And I mean
Smith,
that
they're so young.
Like you cannot blame these dudes for it. Like it happens. Basketball.
Yeah, I mean, look, like they're accountable for the fact that this happened, right? Like you absolutely, it's on them on some level in the way that losses, somebody is accountable for losing games, but it's understandable at the same level, right? It makes sense that these guys struggled in these games. And I agree with you. I don't think there was a single second where Zach Edey shrunk from the moment. Like it felt like to me last year, like Kentucky, I was talking to like a friend of mine over text as this was happening. It felt like to me last year, like Kentucky shrunk from the moment a little bit, like almost all of their guys, right? It didn't feel that way to me this year with Edey. Like it felt like Edey wanted the ball and they couldn't get it to him. Like he took one shot in the last 12 minutes. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like that for Purdue's guards to not be able to get him the ball, again, credit where it's due to FDU. Their guards, their pressure at the point of attack was incredible. And they deserve a lot of credit here. But like it's also kind of on Purdue's guards on some level. And that's a bummer, but like you're a 1 seed going up against a 16 seed that didn't win their conference tournament. Like you should be dictating this game, you know?
Yeah. No, 100%. They did dictate the door after the game, though. So there's
that. Do you have anything else to say about this? Look, like I do have some questions about like, you know, Matt Painter in NCAA tournament games. I think those are reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, we've had the same conversation how many times over the last however long. And I do want to say too, like, I mean, obviously the regular season production can't be undersold. I do think it's easy to undersell that stuff, but at the same point, like Purdue is here to be extremely competitive in the postseason, so it has been disappointing. But I think my main takeaway is just like, man, congrats to Fairleigh Dickinson. Like that shit's awesome to watch. Like, I was talking to a friend about this earlier today, but like part of like yesterday, I think my favorite game to watch was Penn State, Texas A&M, just from the virtue of like Penn State completely executed their game plan perfectly. They played a perfect game. And I felt the same way watching Fairleigh Dickinson. Like that's the kind of stuff that I enjoy watching. Like obviously you want a close game, you want a really good game. And I think you obviously got that today. But I think again, it's when you see a team that plays like perfectly to their strengths, executes game plan, it's just so fun to watch, man.
It really is.